Welcome to Acclime Conversations, a thought leadership series where we discuss the most pressing matters shaping the business environment in Vietnam. In today's episode, we have a special guest, Mr. Jakub Kudrna,
Hello.
the Chief Strategy Officer and Chairperson of the ESG Steering Committee at Home Credit in Vietnam. We're going to discuss today a lot of interesting topics, specifically on the consumer finance, fintech side, and sustainability, ESG, and how the transformation between the industries that are involved within the technology space, the fintech specifically, and ESG are intertwined as well. Jakub has quite a lot of experience, more than 20 years in business strategy transformation across Eastern Europe and Asia. And it will be certainly a very interesting discussion for us to understand more about what Home Credit is doing, what Jacob is thinking about future trends that are within the consumer finance space in the Vietnamese context here. So welcome again, Jacob. Very happy to have you here.
Happy to be here.
Before we go through the key and the core areas of discussion, it would be great to understand a bit more about your personal story of what brought you here in Vietnam and how you ended up, being part of this vibrant economy and as well home credit. Tell us a bit about your journey.
Okay. It's quite simple. My background is a little bit surprising because my background is physics. But I have been maybe mainly my studies, and I quickly moved to financial sector. It means I'm spending now almost 25 years in financial sector, and I always work in area of the risk management. And I uh, have several roles. For example, in G Money Bank in Czech Republic as a chief risk officer. After that, I moved to Home Credit headquarter in the Prague. In these times, we have like 5 countries at the beginning. Uh, we develop really the risk management infrastructure because in these times it doesn't exist at the beginning of the Home Credit. And finally, I moved to position of chief risk officer of the group. And then I obtained the possibility or opportunity to move to Russia. It means I spent like a chief risk officer of our Russian business. In this time, it was the biggest business. Almost 7 years in Moscow. It's quite interesting. It's not so easy to go to Moscow now, honestly. And after that, after Moscow journey, I should move to US to some our business. But finally, the decision was made that this business is not so interesting for us. It means I stayed on headquarter, and after headquarter, there was opportunity to be a chief strategy officer in Vietnam, and I'm already around 1 year now. It's exactly almost 1 year. Or it's even more than 1 year now in Vietnam, and I like it a lot.
Mm, okay. And how's your experience, within the Vietnamese business environment based on your, let's say, 25 years of working in Europe and understanding the consumer's finance space? In this 1 year, how do you see the differences in Vietnam versus your back experience in Europe?
I mean, what is very clear, and this we experience not only in Vietnam but in all Asian countries. It's digitalization. It's if you compare it with Europe or even with Russia, the process of digitalization was much slower. If you see it in Asian countries, it's much faster process, and we experience the same process also here in Vietnam, and it goes really fast. And this is, if we are speaking about home credit Vietnam itself, uh, the biggest the biggest difference is really this digitalization. At the same time, you see that the customer's behavior is really changing in time. And it's also much faster, I would say, compared to Euro customers. They are much more conservative, in my opinion. And in Asia or in Vietnam, we have to be much more better in terms of to fulfill their needs. If you would see the history of the on credit here, like it's more than 16 years now. The beginning was really simple. You provided some simple loans. It was like one-time financial provider, and that's it. Now we are really trying to fulfill all the customers' needs on the daily basis. And on all the places where the customer is present, in reality, it means you have really like omni-channel. We have the offline channels like the shops, like the telesales and all this stuff, which is quite old stuff, But at the same time, you have really big development on this digital space when the customer wants to be also. It's the same requirements like for offline channel, which is quite challenging. It means these are the biggest changes we see. Uh, what's happened also, if you see this long history, we have much more products because of the requirements of customer. For example, the newest one, it's called buy now, pay later. This is very popular product for everybody. It needs smart financial companies develop so-called buy now, pay later. Um, this is quite an interesting one. We started this last year or so. We have quite big success with that. And I want to see how it grows quickly further. And
This model, sorry to interrupt, this model, buy now, pay later, it was quite famous in the last 5, 6 years across Asia, not just in Vietnam.
yeah,
However, from my understanding is that there's still challenges on the long-term viability in the sense of how you implemented there was because it's a high risk, so you're in risk strategy and it's it's definitely not just a basic fintech that anyone can use. It's much more complex.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And our core competence, which I didn't mention it, because in Vietnam, we are not really, also in the other Asian countries, we are not really focused on the overall population. We are very much focused on what we call it underbanked populations, which in Vietnam is recently around like 46% of the customers or the people, which is quite a big population still. And it is interesting for our business. It means we are trying to target this group of people, and this requires really very competent risk management because you can imagine this in majority low income people, not unstable income, and so on. It means it's much more complicated to assess the quality of the customer and to give assessment in terms of how much money we can provide to such a customer. And because we believe this is our core competence, we believe we can start to use it also for such a products like BNPL.
Okay, maybe we'll get to that later. You mentioned interesting insights regarding the changing of the consumer needs. Specifically here in Vietnam and in Asia, you have the Gen Z, specifically post COVID. A lot of consumer changes happened due to the transformation of the economy and as well the digitalization of the economy that got boosted by that experience. Where do you see as a business leader and as a strategy leader, should businesses align their themselves and their strategies with these very fast changing consumer needs from a financial consumer finance perspective?
Yeah, from consumer finance perspective, it's quite clear in some sense. Uh, what is our strategy is that the main communication channel, it's our customers. We believe it's our mobile application we did all,
Mm.
because in theory, you can put all products, you can put all the communication with customer, should be quite suitable for him because he can use it 24/7. We are able to provide all the services 24/7. And second option is to do it on the web pages and all this stuff. Question is how these ecosystems in future will interact. This is one of the questions we can discuss later, but this is for me a little bit open topic because we see that there will be some challenges. Because you know it's also a little bit sometimes funny discussion because we have big partners we are cooperating with, and sometimes we have discussion, the customer is your customer or it's our customer. And it is starting to be interesting, how to manage the customer's expectation from both sides.
Correct. And as well, in the current status of the Vietnamese market from a fintech perspective, partnerships are, in the majority of the cases, very important and consequential because when you look at digital banks or digital wallets on many other fintech products, a lot of them are made in partnership with the traditional finance institution. And that's how kind of the financial transformation gets evolved in Vietnam. and leapfrogs 10 times faster than that you would have in Europe. So this partnership specifically between the banking sector that has an experience or legal foundation and the innovation sector that comes with the fintech, it's very solidly intertwined, but risks appear as well, right, within this model.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But if you see it how it works now, still these two things, even if we call it partnership, these two partners are kind of splitted, you know. This is there's always discussion if you speak with the partner. Will the customer will do everything in my ecosystem or in your ecosystem? Not interesting for customer itself. He doesn't care. No, he wants to provide a good service, and that's it. It means I believe there has to be much closer cooperation in partnership finally. And this is not still clear for me what will be the shape. Because I can imagine in general, if we are speaking about financing, for what the customer needs money to buy something. Yeah. And he doesn't care at the end of the day how he will obtain the money and so on too much. You know, he wants quick service, and that's it. Means I can imagine that in future there has to be something like, let's call it package, that you want to buy something and it will be automatically clear how it's financed. And it will be like package. Now it's a little bit split. You are buying the goods and after you are choosing the financing, you know. I believe in future these two things will be much more connected to each other.
Very interesting. And you put out an interesting question: what does the customer really care about? And my question to you would be: do they care about sustainability? Do they care about ESG from your perspective, obviously at Home Credit, but also from your experience in Europe and in Vietnam? Digital transformation and in general, fintech is a key enabler of sustainability of various, let's say, ESG goals or sustainable goals. Um, the twin transitions model that intertwines these two areas of digital and sustainability and how they create synergies together is really, really, let's say, a valid opportunity for players in the market to access. How do you see the consumer's needs in this space and this connection between the digital, the fintech space and sustainability from your view?
I mean, you can look at it from different angles. One angle is that digitalization is in reality part of the ESG. These two things are logically interconnected because you can call it, if I'm doing something automatized and digitalized, it's much more saving. I don't know. We can call it about a green economy and all this stuff. That's for sure it's working, and it's working also in case of home credit, we know. Second one is it is clear that there is much increasing the knowledge of consumers itself about ESG because you can see it much more everywhere. And what we see that the customers are really asking, not all of them for sure, but the share is growing. If the company itself, which they want to provide, they want from them some service, is ESG oriented or not. We see that this share is growing for sure, and logically there is also, let's be honest, there is kind of push also from overall environment. We can call it a state environment or regulatory environment. Those regulators, yes, logically, he wants sustainable things. Every regulator wants that. And ESG in reality equals to long-term sustainability. It means there will be, and it will continue also from the official side, so let's say, there will be always such a push to help. S- Last thing, and this is, let's say, the I like it most, is that there is more and more proofs that if the companies follows the sustainability approach or ESG approach, that they are much more successful than compared to companies which they are trying to win fast and not following this approach. This is really interesting.
Mhm. And from your position as a chairman of the ESG steering committee, obviously you've worked a lot on your sustainability goals and planning and strategy. But for 2025 moving forward, do you have a key, let's say, area of focus from this ESG perspective that you want to channel your actions towards?
Yeah. I mean, this is interesting question because how we look at on ESG strategy in home credit. Honestly, ESG strategy for me is a part of the business strategy. It means if I am trying to solve business goals or business strategy, automatically it's embedded. The ESG stuff is embedded inside. It means I don't need to think about this like separately. This is, by the way, one of the things or the challenges I believe that a lot of companies has, that they are thinking this is my business strategy and this will be my ESG strategy. This is a little bit, I don't want to say no set because for sure they are smart guys. Yeah, but I believe this is not the right way because after that everybody start to think about the cost, how much it will cost, how much it will bring, and so on and so on. If it's a part of your business strategy, you don't need to discuss these things and it's automatically go with that. And how how we approach that is at the beginning, but there's another funny story around that. We look at on our core strengths in our business. And the discussion was, and I can say some examples, was are these core strengths, can we expand them to some other things which would help finally also to our business? And one typical thing is about what I mentioned. Our core strengths is as we are doing this underbanked population, our core strength is risk management. And if you look at on the risk management, sure, you have always the customers which are not paying sometimes, no? And the discussion was, okay, what can be the reason why they are not paying? Okay, is maybe they don't understand their financials, okay? It means you start with such a thing that, okay, let's make the products more transparent, that the person understand exactly how much he required that he is a repayment. This was the first cycle of improvement. Second one was, and I believe even more, it's so-called financial literacy. We started to educate students. We're starting to help some women in a in complicated conditions to help them to grow the knowledge about the financials and all this stuff. And in this underbanked population, you immediately see how you improve the, let's call it, risk numbers, your delinquencies on or unpaid debt in such a population. It means finally you are helping the population at the same time you have benefit for your business, which is really, you can calculate how much it is, how much it is.
Absolutely. And the other bank population, you mentioned before, 45% from your stats. I remember around 4.5 years ago when we were doing a report of fintech here at Acclime Vietnam, we were looking at statistics back then. It was around 70%.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Vietnam.
yeah, it's changing quickly.
The evolution of the financial products range and the penetration in the market is indeed at a very fast pace in comparison with other markets, specifically European markets in that sense.
Yeah.
And that's probably because Vietnam as a culture from a business perspective, but also from a consumer perspective, adopts new technologies fast. They individuals, they want to have access to those new technologies. You can just look at blockchain and crypto, for example. That's one of the examples. Vietnam is one of the highest
Yeah,
adoption markets in that sense.
which I don't know if it's good, but anyway.
Yeah, that's another story. But when you talk about innovation, there's a lot of discussion on AI and as well other various sectors and industry pillars where AI can improve and generate innovative products. I was wondering if you can share a bit more about some of the innovations that you use, or maybe innovative products that you're planning or you launched already with Hop Credit.
Yeah, no, on products, if you are speaking about products, it's clear because of this segment, we are providing, you can imagine all the kind of cash loans, we call it so-called POS loans. It means you can finance all the goods, you can buy it everywhere, e-shops, or if you go to some shop. For sure, we have classical credit cards. We started to now to grow significantly this, we call it home pay later, which is this buy now pay later product, which we are really excited how it will grow further. And if we will make money on that, this will be also a good question for me. A good challenge, I would say. Yeah, and after that, we have also not non-credit products like different insurances because I think, for example, insurance environment is still in Vietnam. I would say a little bit underdeveloped. There is still much bigger potential what customers can obtain. Problematic maybe can be a little bit the reputation of insurance stuff because of some historical issues here. But it was mainly about the life insurance. But I still believe there is a big potential what we can do it and which kind of very good products you can provide to Vietnamese population. If speaking about AI itself, for sure we started to use it in business. Um, I honestly, I mean, this is the little bit of fancy time of the AI because everybody speak about AI. If you look at really inside, and I did physics, it means I understand the mathematics behind that. There is nothing new, honestly. The the big change why it happened is that somebody has enough money to build up so big computers that they can do these mathematical algorithms much faster and on much bigger scales in terms of the big data. And this is exactly what we are doing. But honestly, we are doing this already even before fancy AI. Somebody speak about AI. It means we have why the risk management is successful is the reason is not done by people. I mean the underwriting system, for example, or all this is automatized. And inside of this automat, you have a lot of models. And these models are really based on the AI, which everybody is now looking at that it's a fancy stuff, but in reality, it's nothing.
So tech companies, historically for the last 5, 10 years, they were using tens of thousands of models to
Sure.
automate things. They could call them now AI just because of this transition of awareness of what that innovative module can do. Right. But Vietnam as a country has some significant plans for the digital economy sector that go through 2030 and 2050 into developing it and supporting it to reach a potential of at least 30% or 50% of the entire economy. So big plans for the next 10, 20, 30 years in that sense. There's a lot of opportunities in the digital economy. We launched a report just 4 or 5 months ago that where we cover these and the challenges that exist within the digital space in Vietnam. It's an obvious significant market for new entrants from a digital economy space, but there's obvious challenges that you need to consider risks. Can you share a few notes on where do you see in the consumer finance space and maybe in the digital economy space some of the key challenges that you experience and you feel that it's worth noting that?
No, which is for sure, it's we have to speak about cybersecurity and data privacy. This is big topic in Vietnam. As regulator is quite strong on that. They already do a lot of stuffs around that. And on the other hand, at the same time, we understand that from the customer point of view, we have to look really safe because we as the big data is growing, we have more and more information about customer, and we understand that we have to be more and more careful how these data are treated and how they are safe in terms of any possible leakage, for example, and so on. This is one of the challenges you can have it. Second challenge is, and this is not only consumer finance, but it's for every company, even for state, I believe. Still, this AI is super nice, but if the data you are putting in is trash, the output is also trash. It means there's no victory. And honestly, if you speak with all the companies in general, mm, the issue is not the AI or the models itself. The issue is how to prepare all the data and the quality of the data that you will feed all these models, that you will obtain the right outputs. And this is much bigger challenge that everybody sometimes understands. And this is something I expect also here that it can be challenged because there is a huge space where you can change it, even in Europe, still huge, but there is maybe even bigger. But what I believe they will a little bit struggle is to have this high quality data to be able to work with them in such a fast way. I can imagine it can be challenge, for that.
Right. And to gather that high quality data or to increase the quality at a reasonable level, you will need that human approach. You will need someone to
Exactly.
actually
You
look at
can.
it.
No, you can a little bit use AI also for that, but it's a challenge. It's not easy task at all. It's not easy task at all. It takes some time.
Um, we're approaching slowly to the end of the conversation, but the last two questions I would like to focus more on where is the future going? In when you look at credit, 16 years you mentioned that's been in the Vietnamese market. Where it started from, where it's going, where do you see the change coming for home credit? What's going to happen in the next few years? Where is home credit going forward?
I mean, several things are clear. This products requirements or customer needs, they will change all the time. It means we have to follow these trends. And now it is quite clear where it's moving. Uh, if there will be any big change in 5 years, good questions. But in terms of availability and presence, that you are able to provide all the products and financial services, this will be crucial
Mm.
all the time. Uh, there will be bigger and bigger pressure that the processes will be, we call it seamless. That customer, if I would simplify it, only open the app, one click, and the deal is done.
Right.
It means there will be much bigger pressure on that. Because on the other hand, there will be pressure about this data privacy, that the customer is properly identified and all this stuff. It means you have to find always the right balance, how to make it seamless at the same time safe. This will be never-ending battle always. Uh, from other stuff, I believe the ESG approach, it will grow much more. I expect that the number of companies which will follow this approach will grow, which, yes, it will increase maybe the competition. On the other hand, I think it can make also possibility, what I mentioned, is that these partnerships finally can be even much more aligned from the customer point of view, that it's possible to do it now, because if you want to follow this ESG approach, it has to be really transparent. Means I think it will be even for the partners itself to find the agreement. It will be much easier than it is sometimes now, because sometimes still there is a kind of battle. This is mine, this is yours, and that's a life. It means I believe there are two main developments. One, we have to still follow the customer needs, and it will continue the pressure in terms of to cover their daily needs. It's the new products they will require. All the processes has to be really seamless, and we have to balance the seamlessness versus the safeness. Let's say that the customer feels safe at the same time. Everything should be fast. Second point is partnership. As I mentioned it already some time ago. Now everybody is building his ecosystem. I believe the future is that this ecosystem has to somehow overlap. Big question how it will happen. Uh, and the last thing, I believe there will be continuing process to increasing share of the companies which will follow the ESG approach, which I believe finally also like help to improve these partnerships finally. That it will be much easier, because there has to be much bigger transparency between the companies and so on. And finally, it will help the customer, I hope, because otherwise it doesn't make sense.
Right. You're mirroring quite a lot of other businesses that I've talked to from the ESG perspective. It is not just a word without substance. In Vietnam, it becomes more prevalent, integrated into the value chain of various economic pillars and within businesses that are actively looking not just about how do we do ESG for the sake of it, but how do we leverage and do something sustainable. And if you look at Vietnam's goal as an economy, it's about being sustainable long term. all the plans that we look at: energy, digital economy, green growth, 2030, 2050. It's that long-term mindset. And I think that ESG really fits well as well with the digital transformation of what's happening about the country.
I totally agree.
Last question. Maybe I'll put you on the spotlight a bit here because you've only been here for a year or so, and maybe your insights are not necessarily so mature. But it's something that I often ask investors that are present in the Vietnamese market, based on your experience in the general business environment, but in the digital economy space, customer finance as well. Um, what's your rating for the digital economy potential, or for the economic potential of the Vietnamese opportunity moving forward the next few years? If you'd rate from 1 to 10, for example, your views on the potential of the digital economy, specifically space, what would be your rating?
No, for sure it's 10. I mean, in Asia, Vietnam is still on the top of the list of the countries where they have the biggest potential in terms of growth, in terms of how many investments make sense to do it, and so on. It means, honestly, this is no doubt that Vietnam is still on the top in terms of the potential and makes sense to invest money. That's right. Sure.
Okay. Thank you for your answer, and thank you so much for sharing your insights with myself and with the audience. Appreciate it, and maybe we'll catch up with another session in the next few months.
Okay. Thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And thank you to our viewers and listeners for attending the Acclime conversations. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episodes. Thank you.